Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Voltz Supreme's Synth VGM Dream Stream Machine podcast, where we play the synthiest synth video game music in the universe. I am very excited about this episode for two reasons. Firstly, you all know I'm a huge fan of Masashi Hamauzu, and it was inevitable that I would do an entire episode dedicated to his work. But I thought, why settle for a single episode? He's got so much gold that I thought, why not just do an episode for each of his synthiest soundtracks? Yeah, brilliant idea if you ask me. Alright, so seriously, I am very excited to share some amazing Masashi Hamauzu music with you all. We're going to tackle this in a chronological kind of fashion, starting with his earlier soundtracks. So today's topic is the soundtrack from 2002 PS2 JRPG game, Unlimited SaGa. We'll talk more about it once we get going. Now, the second reason I am so excited is because of our guest this week. We have world-renowned master chef Oliver Ackhurst, who runs an interesting restaurant in downtown London called Le Beats Von Boo by Oliver Ackhurst. Let's get him on, and we'll let him tell us all about it. Welcome to Voltz Supreme's Synth VGM Dream Stream Machine podcast, Oliver.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to be on the show, Voltz. Absolutely amazing. You know, for weeks I had all kinds of folk in my restaurant, and I hear them chatting away about some podcast with a funny name. Eventually I asked one of my staff, and she just looked at me in shock. She couldn't believe I didn't know what a Voltz Supreme podcast was. Clear name was there. She explained to me briefly what it was all about, and believe me this, Voltz, I quickly shut down the restaurant for the rest of the day, and I went home and caught up on all the episodes. It's possibly the best podcast show I've ever heard, and it's always a hot topic amongst me customers, especially right after a new episode.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I had no idea it would spread so far and so fast. I've got to thank my listeners for that. Guys and girls, I really appreciate you sharing this podcast around and suggesting it to your friends. It really is the only effective form of marketing I've got. So don't stop sharing the love, the synthy VGM love. Anyway, Oliver.
Look, just call me Ollie, alright?
Yeah, no worries. Ollie, I've mentioned you're an acclaimed chef, but why don't you fill us in with some more details regarding yourself and the restaurant that you run?
Right. Well, first of all, Voltz, I'm a chef, but I'm also a record producer. I do the whole shebang, Voltz. I'm involved with the writing, performing, even down to the mastering. Now, our restaurant is very unique. It caters for creatives, musicians, and fine diners. We have a world-class but very interesting menu, where every item on the menu is the name of a song, and each item is very specially made to represent the song and title and the lyrics if applicable.
Yeah, example?
Well, some easily recognisable ones might be something like Octopus's Garden. Yeah, it's a kind of like a La Poisson on the feu de mer, sophisticated surf and turf. And we might have some lesser known titles like Funkadelic B-side song Fish, Chips and Sweat, which is a traditional fish and chips, English fish and chips, but just absolutely drenched in white wine vinegar and verjuice. Pucker stuff, real fresh on the palate. You have to come visit Voltz and taste the experience.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm not sure when I'll be in London next though, so... You're a music producer as well, aren't you? Is that a side job?
I don't believe in side jobs, Voltz. These are the things we live. We live them every moment of our lives. Music and food, like blood and love. Essential. And you know, making music is just like making food. Depending on what you're cooking up, you need the right ratios of the sweet, the sour, the spicy, the salty, the umami, and one that I have personally coined and think is the most important, the booty boo.
Booty boo.
Yeah, the booty boo. It's that little extra something, that special element, that creme de la creme. You know, it's all about ratio, balance, getting a little bit of that booty boo in there, right?
Right.
So much like food, the perfect music production needs all the elements in all the right ratios to make a real zinger of a song. A real buttercup, you hear me?
Yeah, exactly. And like we spoke about when preparing for this episode, Ollie, we want to do a little bit of musical analysis and deconstruction as we go through these songs. Look at the songs like they're a recipe. Try to find out what makes them special or effective. We're not going to go into too much detail because I really want to keep the flow of music steady, but we'll mention what we think are some of the more important elements. So, Ollie, have you heard this soundtrack before?
Voltz, I'm not that much into video game music. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that I'm mostly thinking about albums and film soundtracks. Outside of your podcast and playing Overcooked with me young ones, I'm not that well versed. Hopefully you can really broaden me palate, Voltz.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, this should be a lot of fun for you. So let's kick things off with our first song. We're going to start things off a bit more on the energetic side, and then we'll tone things down towards the end. This track is BT version 8 from the game Unlimited SaGa by Masashi Hamauzu. Cool track. Okay, let's give it a go. That was BT version 8. Okay, let's give this a go. You want me to start, Ollie?
Nah, let me hit this one, Voltz. That was a real piece of work right there. First of all, I think it's very much constructed like a fusion Chinese Szechuan spicy dish. Lots and lots of tartiness, real bitey elements. Firstly, there's some serious meat going on with that drum and percussion combination. It's almost a little bit craft work, a little bit industrial. And one of those kick sounds that obviously has a gated reverb to sound very 80s. And that constant 7th chord smacking it out on the 16th notes. Oh, that creates a real sense of intensity.
Yeah, I think the BT stands for battle theme, so it makes sense that this feels a bit frantic and exciting. I agree though, those constant fast 16th notes really create that frantic feel. And a lot of those synth chords sound very dissonant and unresolved. It kind of holds everything in this kind of musical tension until the next bit comes in. It's a pretty cool tune for sure. So let's talk a bit about the soundtrack. We're only looking at a very small portion of it. Most of this soundtrack is orchestral, and if I'm going to be honest, the synth tunes only make up a small portion of it and are far from the highlights of the soundtrack. But this is Masashi Hamauzu, and every song he writes is fantastic in my humble opinion. So CD1 is almost exclusively orchestral and small ensemble stuff. And then CD2 is a lot more experimental and electronic. So everything we'll be looking at tonight is from CD2.
Oh, you really whet my appetite, Voltz. I can't wait to sink me teeth into more from this menu you got for us.
Well, then let's hear our next tune. This next one is Battle Theme EX. I think it's a nice hybrid of electronic and orchestral. Yeah, this is a real beauty. Okay, Battle Theme EX from Unlimited SaGa by Masashi Hamauzu. Enjoy. Boom, how do you like that?
Blimey, that is a very unique combination of flavours. That certainly has the spice, the sweet, the sour, the umami, and most importantly, it definitely has the booty boo.
Yeah, that is classic Hamauzu right there. He really pulls off the hybrid of electronic and acoustic instrumentation flawlessly.
Look, if someone came into my restaurant and told me that they had a recipe that mixed accordion, violins, egg shakers with a bouncy synth bass underneath, I'd have told them, Struth, what planet you baking your eggs on?
Yeah, and I don't think you can ignore that rhythm either. I'm not 100% sure what time signature it is, but it's got a very strong emphasis on the threes or the triplets. It gives it a huge amount of momentum and energy.
Oh, my mouth is watering, folks. What else we got on the menu?
Okay. Let's keep the energy high. This next one is different again. It's got a nice hint of jazz fusion flavor to it. Now, you'll like the fusion, Ollie. But this is BT version 1 from, again, Unlimited SaGa by the brilliant Masashi Hamauzu. This is really nice stuff, guys and girls. Enjoy. How good is that? Did you hear the last time that little straight chorus bit came in? Everything was played twice as fast. I love it. It's just great.
Absolutely fantastic composition, Voltz. This is a much more traditional recipe with your typical electric bass and drum kit just locked in super tight, and you've also got that jazz piano, but on top of everything is all that synth. It just takes the band into outer space.
Yeah, again, he's pulled off the hybrid synth, and well, in this case it's not really acoustic but a band sound. Yeah, it's great. I'm a huge sucker for those tuned noise drops as well. You can hear them now in the background. Basically, you can get that sound on a classic analog synth by sending your noise signal to your low-pass filter, and then you crank the resonance up. And to get it to have a tone, you want to keep the filter envelope steady or at 0, and have the filter tracking your keyboard. So depending on your synth, it's sometimes tricky to have it perfectly track your keyboard so it produces the right notes. But yeah, I think it's a cool effect. I love that sound. Put a little release or tail on the end of it, and it really gives a sense of great distance or space. You know what I mean? I don't know about the context of this music, but in the game, if that's a battle song, it's different to the others we've played in that they gave you a sense of just all-out frantic energy, but this track is a lot more subtle. I would compare it to something like a ninja battle, or something similar. Lots of holding back and waiting for the right moment to strike, or something like that. I don't know. And those chromatic bits also add to the craziness as well, and the tension.
Totally hearing you, Voltz. It's that underlying sour that makes you appreciate the sweet, that juicy stuff. Oh, alright, pucker me up, Voltz. I'm still hungry.
Alright, well, here's another high energy track. I love the key changes in this song, especially the last one. So listen out for them, and we'll talk more about it all when we come back. This is BT Ultimate from the game Unlimited SaGa, composed by Masashi Hamauzu. This, again, is amazing stuff. Enjoy. gotta love that.
Oh, wow, folks, that was like a 3-course meal. We started off with a plate of all cinematic-like stuff, and then I'm staring all of a sudden at a plate of techno jelly. Then near the end we get that subtle sweetness, like a nice little dessert before whack! You didn't get all your second course, so here it is again in another key, you slimy dog!
Yeah, that last key change is just so perfect. I mean, it is just a key change, but everything, the lead up, the synth melody as it whistles up towards it, I don't know, it's just so perfect in my mind. I really think, Ollie, you nailed it with your 3-course metaphor. You've got that repetitive bass ostinato thing going on, which kind of puts compositional limitations on where you can take the song. I know I would struggle getting out of that, but it's Masashi Hamauzu, so he just takes it exactly where it needs to go. Yeah, it's also really cool to hear that trumpet. I love hearing the trumpet in the rest of the soundtrack, and just a reminder, we're looking at a very limited, small chunk of this soundtrack. There's so much amazing stuff on this soundtrack that I just can't play because it's not synth. I'd love for the Super Mikado brothers to do an episode on this soundtrack, and maybe every other Masashi Hamauzu soundtrack as well. Anyway, let's move on. We've got one more high energy song, and then we'll change the pace a little bit. This is BT version 6 by Masashi Hamauzu. Enjoy. You know, it's only now that we're recording this episode and I have my headphones on, do I notice how much crazy swirling, panning stuff is going on. This is a fun song in my opinion. This is one of the things I love about Masashi Hamauzu. Overall, this song, you know, it comes across as pretty straight, kind of like a Let's Go Rob a Bank old school blockbuster tune. But he's not afraid to add all these really bizarre flavors to the mix.
Oh, absolutely. When I am cooking up a well-known dish, the last thing I want is to serve it up like something people can taste in any other restaurant, you know? Now, I want to keep it traditional, but I still want to give it something special. So when people walk out of my restaurant with food splattered down their £1,000 suits, they remember that little something special, that little booty boo.
Wow. Ollie, I've only just noticed how similar you and Masashi Hamauzu are. You definitely both got the booty boo. Alright, let's change gears a little bit here. We're going to step things down a little. This is an interesting track. We're moving from the BTs to the DGs. Now, I think I'm accurate in assuming BT's battle theme, even though there are actually songs on the soundtrack that are just simply called battle themes. But anyway, I don't know what DG stands for, but we're moving into the DGs, baby. And this is one nice funkadelic. No, it's not funkadelic. It's funky and psychedelic sounding tune. It's called DG Comfort by Masashi Hamauzu. Let the vibes flow through. That is nice stuff. I really feel like I'm in a desert listening to that. I love the bell sounds for the melody. But look, I can't help but think of the Beatles song Tomorrow Never Knows from the Revolver album. Obviously the songs are completely different, but in the Beatles song, you got that sitar drone or that tempura drone sound with the seagull sounds coming in, and I'll put it on now. I'll play it. Obviously, Masashi Hamauzu is thinking of that song because you don't just put Indian percussion, the tabla, and the seagull sounds together. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I thought it might be fun to point out, but from memory, the seagull sound is actually Paul McCartney laughing. From memory. I used to love making that sound on my guitar with a ton of delay, slide, and swelling that volume knob. I'm pretty sure I got that from Adrian Belew, and I'll play him doing some of that now. Adrian Belew is an amazing guitarist, and if you like synths for the reason that I do, which is just the ability to create all these weird and wonderful sounds, then you'll like Adrian Belew. He's a bit like Steve Vai, very expressive in the way he plays his guitar. They make totally different music, but I put them together in that they both create some amazing sounds with their guitar. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. We've been talking about seagull sounds and stuff for too long. That's obviously a great tune, but let's jump into the next one for the sake of time and flow. Up next is DG Sine. It's another great track. Let's listen to it. All right, enjoy. Bonus points there for the synth percussion sounds. Look, you know what impresses me about Masashi Hamauzu? The way he can pull off some of the most compositionally complex tunes and then knock something really simple and minimal like this right out of the park. He definitely reminds me of YMO, all the guys from that, who were really good at doing that, and also my favorite pop music producer, Yasutaka Nakata, who writes and produces all the music for some massive J-pop artists like Perfume and Kari Pemu Pemu. All these guys can make the most incredibly complex songs and then know exactly how to nail a really minimal track. I think there's something in that, but maybe that's a discussion for another time.
Now, look, Voltz, yes, absolutely. You seem to have the music side covered, so I'll draw some more cooking parallels. What we're talking about, that's exactly how I do my hiring, right? I get this big wig in from North Hampshire who's roasted £1 of a dozen of the finest, and he wants to spit his moon jelly and bring out the liquid nitrogen. Hang on a tick, listen hotshot, sunglasses boy, Mr. Fancy Pants, you show me that you can poach a quail egg and then I might give you a few minutes to flash your juice around. Blimey, it's just like that with music production, Voltz. I mean, you can fluke a few fancy zigzags here and there, but unless you've got a good breadth of the styles, you ain't tasted the truffles yet.
Yeah, it's so true. But next tune. We're going to start to wind things down even more now as we reach the end of the episode. This next tune is DG Sadness. And it's another great example of Masashi Hamauzu's perfect fusion of acoustic, traditional instruments, with synth. So enjoy this next track. You know what's funny? We've touched on a few songs, but if you haven't heard this soundtrack before, you would still have no idea what the whole thing sounds like. Guys and gals, the mystery is still waiting to be unveiled. Get out there, check out this whole soundtrack. It's really good. It's online, it's in all the stores. I think most of these older soundtracks are owned by the game companies. But Square Enix have put a lot of them online. You can get all the old Final Fantasy stuff, or all the Final Fantasy soundtracks, I think. Anyway, that was a pretty piano-heavy song, but if you listen back, or listen as it plays in the background now, you'll hear there's always a little bit of synth playing the whole way through. I mean, just that piano track alone is fantastic, but all those synth layers just add a little bit more texture. And yeah, it's just really brilliant stuff. Now, I feel like I need to mention the synth programmer, Ryo Yamazaki. I don't actually know what he brings to the composition or to the sound. It would be interesting to know. But he worked very closely with Hamauzu on these earlier soundtracks, and he's a great composer in his own right. And then you've got Mitsudo Suzuki, who took on that same role years later, and again, he's also a great composer. He did a lot of really good stuff in the Final Fantasy 13 sequels. He's also doing the Final Fantasy 7 remake soundtrack with Hamauzu, which is very cool. But I don't really know enough details to comment on that at this point. But if you know what's going on, let me know in the comments section below, if there is one, however you're listening to this. But yeah, okay. So it's crazy to think that we just covered the Unlimited SaGa soundtrack, but we didn't even touch on some of the best tracks. So do yourself a favor, check out all this soundtrack, and obviously check out all the work of Masashi Hamauzu. I'll leave a link to his website, Monomusik, in the description. He's got all his recent material on there that you can buy. Ollie, thanks for joining us. I feel like we only really scraped the surface of this cooking music fusion. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Absolutely, Voltz. Your podcast has definitely got that booty boo, and I will no doubt be back in a jiffy. Just let me know and transfer the cash.
All right. All right, let's close out with a really nice tune. This is DG Listless from the amazing soundtrack Unlimited SaGa by the very talented Masashi Hamauzu. Remember, folks, this is all from back in 2002. I don't think this soundtrack has aged a bit, and it could have been released yesterday, and I wouldn't have complained at all. All right. Enjoy this last tune. Remember to stay synthetic. And thanks again for joining us, Oliver Ackhurst.
It's been real fine dining, Voltz.
All right. Enjoy, everyone. See you later.